Hey guys, this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not break the law. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a very special guest, Mr. Mike Damra, the co-founder and CEO of Innovative Solutions.
Hey guys, good to be here, James. Great being on the podcast here. Thanks for having me.
It's really great to have you here. We sell a lot of your guys' products. They're very popular with people in the cannabis industry. We get a lot of questions about them though. And so it's really great to have you here that we can just kind of clear some stuff up, send this podcast out to anybody who's got some questions just to really dive into your guys' products, what they're used for, why people should consider using them, and kind of the differences between the two main products you guys have. I guess we can just jump right into it. I want to know a little bit about you, Mike. Can you tell me about yourself and how you started your company, why it was started, just any history you can give on us, that'd be great.
Yeah, you got it. So, my background initially was in a completely different world. I was an IT engineer for one of the largest tech companies in the world for a lot of years. So my job was to really provide, design and implement high-tech solutions for the company. So I did that for quite a while, but I've always been an entrepreneurial type of person. And so that's really where when I left my old job at 2012, I started my own company, Innovative Solutions, and our goal was really to provide environmental solutions for different types of markets. And back then, a lot of the markets we worked with pre-cannabis were like food safety, food production, medical, biotech, a lot of highly regulated industries. We did that for quite a while, had a lot of success. We started actually working with some food production companies, and that led us to working with some of their greenhouses. So organic produce growers, they were having problems with mold and mildew issues and compliance issues. And so that really got us down that path and learning. And we even did some work with the FDA doing pathogen testing for molds and mildews that they were trying to find out for a whole variety of different crops. And then fast forward, that led us to the cannabis industry. In 2013, got a phone call from a good friend up in Canada, and he let me know that he was going to be one of the first federally legal licensed growers in Canada in their medical market. What he told me though was that everybody was having problems passing microbial tests. What they were having to do in some cases was irradiate, or a lot of cases. That was not their goal, so that's really when we pivoted. 2013, we really shifted our whole focus on the cannabis industry, and we began working a lot with the initial growers in the first federally legal market, Canada. Worked with a number of them in the beginning, and it really helped us design and really evolve our products specifically for the cannabis industry. So for the last 11, 12 years, it's been we were there from really almost the beginning of the legalization. And now we're really, anywhere there's any type of legalization, our products are being used. So it's been a really interesting transition. If you would have asked me 15 years ago where I thought I'd be with the company, I definitely wouldn't have envisioned where we're at. But it's been a great ride, and that's where we're at today. We really focus on helping the evolving cannabis market around the world.
Okay, cool. So you guys, I wasn't even aware you guys had been around that long. So you guys started off in 2012, and then you moved to the cannabis industry. Are you guys primarily, are your products still mostly used for cannabis, or do you still work with other produce?
It's almost all cannabis. We do get calls from, sometimes specific types of environments, indoor growers, but 99% of our business is cannabis, and every once in a while we get a nice opportunity to help some type of indoor microgreen grower or something like that. But our industry has been almost 100% focused on the cannabis industry since 2013.
Cool. And typically, at what point should someone consider investing in some of your guys' products? Like you mentioned the microbial, that your guys' products are really for passing those microbial tests. Is this more for small scale farms, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, actually, when we first started, so in the beginning, it was all commercial. It was the large growers, so in the very beginning, we had one unit. We called it our DXB 100, and it was geared to cover about 500 square feet. And then for larger areas than that, which a lot of them were, we would just scale with additional units. But as time went on and we started getting a lot more known on Instagram and different social media platforms, the home growers would reach out to us. And initially we were selling them these units that would cover 500 square feet, but sometimes they really just needed it for 10 by 10 room in their home. Unfortunately, that was, cost prohibitive for most of them. So what we did is we designed a smaller machine that we could use for small areas in commercial, but also home grows or, hobby grows or whatever you needed, tents. So we have another unit called the Mini. That covers 250 square feet or maybe a little bit more. And we've sold just thousands of those to the, the hobby grower, home grower. And in some cases, it's still a lot more than what they need. So we're actually working on possibly having a smaller unit that might be a good fit for the small tent grower. We hope to have some news on that here in the coming weeks, possibly a month or two. But that could maybe fill that market at a much more cost-effective solution for our home growers, because at the end of the day, most of our money is made on the commercial market, but we have most of our customers are the small home grower market. So numbers wise, we have a lot of home growers, but as far as revenue size, obviously with big facilities, that's really where our business was focused on initially. So just to answer that question, to summarize it, we've got something for just about everybody, and we're trying to even expand on that so that we can really make it to where even the smallest tents can use our technology at a cost-effective solution.
Well, first of all, how important is it for a farm to invest in one of your guys' products? How important is air sanitization for, a budding entrepreneur, as I like to say?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's really critical. There's a saying, at least it's not if you're going to have problems, it's when. And, I have some people and they say, I don't need your technology. I mean, it sounds cool, but I don't think I need it because I don't have problems. And I find that, number one, kind of hard to believe just in talking to so many and working with so many people. But it's usually not if you're going to have a problem, it's when. And the cost of problems it could be catastrophic. On a huge level for, a commercial grower, the numbers could go through the roof. It could be the difference between profitability and not. The home grower, it could just be, the pain of losing everything you've just been focusing on for months just to have it all get wiped out with some outbreak. So in my opinion, I think technology plays a huge role in all of this. I think there's a lot of products out there that play into it, but our technology provides one that there's a lot of variables, I like to say. You got to control your environment, your genetics, and just so many things. But air quality is one. If you don't have good air quality, you're not going to have clean plants, and there's a great chance that at some point you're going to have some quality and yield issues. You're going to spend a lot of money and time fixing problems instead of growing. You're going to be really resolving issues. So I just think air sanitization, if you don't have that and you're just relying on airflow and, whatever, good growing practices, I think you're always susceptible for the unexpected. And just to kind of go a little bit further on that, we had a company we work with. They're a large company. They have several facilities in the U.S. and Canada. And we were working with them for a number of years and had our product in about 6 or 7 facilities, maybe over 250,000 square feet of cultivation. And after a few years of working with them, one day they sent us an email from their quality assurance director, and he says, you got to see these results. We didn't even know they were doing these studies, but what they were doing was measuring the yield coming out of rooms that were using ProGuard against profit yield coming out of rooms not using ProGuard. What they found is the rooms using ProGuard usually had 5 to 10% higher profit yield. Now, I'm not talking that we made the flowers bigger, but what I'm talking about is at the end of it, the cost to run a room without our product, it yielded, it didn't make as much money. And the primary things, he laid them out for us. It was contamination issues, labor input to fix powdery mildew, to fix mold issues, a lot of additional work, loss of product that didn't pass testing. And so when they looked at that 10% loss, our technology in most cases would pay for itself in the first harvest. So it's an investment like any technology, but we think it's one that will provide a quick return on investment. And I've got hundreds of messages, DMs, emails from customers saying, you've saved me many times from catastrophe. And so I like to think that it's critical. I believe it is critical, but I also think it's an investment that will pay for itself many times over. And as one term we hear quite often, we allow them to sleep better at night. We give them peace of mind. So they're sleeping, they're not worrying about coming into the grow and having a massive outbreak. So without a doubt, to answer that question again, I think it's critical. And if you're not using some type of active air purification, you're really rolling the dice, and eventually some variable that you can't control might impact the quality of your grow.
Hey guys, quick interruption here. I just want to let you know that every single product mentioned on this episode is available for sale at greenthumbdepot.com. We love hearing from growers just like you. So if you mention that you heard about us on this episode, We might even be able to throw in a bit of a discount. You can shoot me a personal email at james@greenthumbdepot.com or give us a call at 833-416-0375. We have the best prices on the internet and the best customer service. Not to mention, we offer free shipping across the continental US with no sales tax outside of Nevada. All right, let's get back to the episode. That's a great answer, and you really highlighted a lot of stuff and actually already answered some of the questions I had for later on in the podcast. But some things I want to ask you there. So one thing I'm hearing, and I've heard from basically everyone I've interviewed and all the customers we talk to, is that yield is what you're really optimizing for. And so it sounds like this is generally just going to improve your yield. And to be honest, it's not that big of an investment. I mean, your guys' machines are fairly affordable compared to some of the other ones out there. So yield will go up, and the potential for outbreak pretty much, heads towards zero. So I wanted to ask you about that, just so people are aware of the context behind this. What type of outbreaks could potentially happen if you didn't have, an air sanitization machine like ProGuard?
So a few things. Powdery mildew is one that everybody has to contend with. So that's one that we hear a lot. I get calls all the time from people that they tell me that, or like I said, messages from customers that said they used to always have to deal with powdery mildew. They're always reacting to it, but with our technology, they're really managing it and controlling it. So the outbreaks are much less, and in many cases, it was maybe that last piece that they needed. So powdery mildew is a big one. In the testing market, it's mold spores, obviously. That's the one where they're going to the lab and they have to get approval, and it's all types of molds. It could be aspergillus. It could be, sometimes some places it's a pass-fail. There is no variance. There is no threshold. It's either you have it or you don't. And that's a really tough market to be in, but there's a few states like that. So you could be almost near perfect, but just that little bit of a variance could be the difference between a fail and a pass. And so every grower I know that's gone through that and the process to try to remediate that or retest, it is so expensive. And the cost of remediating way outweighs the cost of being preventative. So there's just so many different things in that regard. I would say those are the two biggest ones, powdery mildew, and then obviously, mold testing. And those are areas that we can really make a huge difference. Now, I always like to say, look, we're not a silver bullet. You can't just throw our technology in there and say, everything's going to get solved. You still have to be a grower and manage your environment, but we are reducing the variables that would cause a catastrophic, event or a catastrophic failure. And I'll just tell you a really quick scenario. Like I've had people, message us or tell us that they've actually lost power, and in that case, they lost all their dehumidification. Their humidity is going through the roof. Our technology was still working, though. Maybe our technology in the fan was still working, and they were able to help prevent a major outbreak until they got their other equipment up and running. Without our technology, in some of those cases, those are the things you can't plan for, and sometimes we fill that gap enough to allow you that variance you need to withstand maybe a major contamination outbreak.
Okay, cool. That's tons of good insight there for anyone that was curious about that. So one question I had that we actually get from a lot of customers, and this is, I guess, a pretty important question. Farms that have ongoing and existing mold issues or contamination issues or whatever, are the DXB and the DXB Mini, are these more of a preventative measure, or can they fix these ongoing mold issues that customers, or farmers currently have?
Yeah, we like to think of it, to use it more as a preventative. It's not a remediation technology. So if you put it in mid-cycle and you've got an outbreak, the technology is definitely going to make a difference, and it's going to reduce spores. It's going to help slow down whatever's happening, but it's not necessarily going to eliminate everything that's on the plant at that point. So if you've got powdery mildew outbreak, it's definitely going to slow it down and help maybe stop it from moving forward, but it's not going to remediate everything that's already existed. So you're still going to have to manage that and take care of that root initial cause of what's going on. But usually when we put our technology in and it's used as a preventative, that's where it's going to provide its value the most, because we're helping to try to prevent. But again, we're not a remediation. So, we're not a spray that you're going to spray on a plant or an infected plant. It's air technology that's killing spores that can cause the problem. It's not necessarily going to undo whole outbreaks. So I always go back to that. And I'm very honest about that when I talk to customers. We get asked that a lot. Hey, I've got an outbreak. I'm thinking about pulling the trigger and buying some units. Is this going to take care of it? And I have to explain what we can and what we can't do, and try to set the right expectations. So, but again, I would say the goal should always be preventative, and but that shouldn't stop you from putting it in if there's an outbreak. It's just you're probably still going to have to manage some of what already existed, and then we should be able to slow it down and help reduce the probability of those problems happening again.
Cool. So it's more of a just preventative measure. If they do have existing issues, it might be able to help a little bit, but they might have to take other actions to fix those. And your guys' products can just help them in the future for preventing it from happening again. Cool. So I want to talk about, we kind of touched on it earlier, but I want to talk about it more, dive in a bit more. The difference between the two products you guys have, which is the DXB and the DXB Mini. What type of person should consider each one, and how should a grower decide which to use?
Yeah, I think if you're a home grower, more than likely you're going to probably want the mini unit. Well, I shouldn't even say that, because we've got home growers that have larger areas. So 250 square feet or less, the mini is going to be the unit. That's, so if you're a home grower, a lot of times that is the profile of the unit you're going to need. But like I said, sometimes we have growers that have a room that's 500 square feet, maybe they converted the garage or something like that, a basement. So the DXB 100 is our larger one. That covers 500 square feet. Anything below that, 250 square feet or less, the mini. So most home growers are using the mini. And these are small boxes. The mini only weighs about 3.5 pounds. It's easy to implement. I mean, literally it can be on the wall in 5 minutes, plug it into your outlet, and it's up and running. So there's no real limiting factor of putting this in a tent or a room. Super easy to do. Only uses about 20 watts of energy. And again, the larger unit, the DXB 100, that's usually going to be the commercial guys. The grow rooms usually are going to be, 500, 1,000, even larger areas. That unit is going to be the one we would use, and we will probably scale it multiple units to get the coverage we need for the larger areas.
Cool. And like I said earlier, I think that these are a pretty good investment for any grower out there. Obviously, it's going to improve your yield and save your crops. I mean, I can't imagine anything worse than spending months growing, a batch and then having them get completely ruined. So it's obviously a good investment. I'd like to touch on your guys' warranty and return policy, just in case something happens with the machines. How can customers know that they're protected in this case?
So we have a 2-year warranty on all the products. If there's any problems with the products, the customer can contact us. Really just show us their proof of purchase so we know when they bought it, and we're gonna resolve that issue. A lot of times we're actually going to send them a new unit. We're not going to ask them to do a repair if it's within the warranty period. We're not going to send back their machine, spend a week or two repairing it and sending it back. Usually we're actually replacing the unit. We don't have a lot of we have a very low defect issue. I mean, our warranties, we just don't get a lot of them that we, compared to the amount of units, we do really well. But we always want to make it right with the customer. We even have programs where if they're out of warranty and it's beyond that warranty period, I've had guys call me up and they're like, my unit's 4 years old, I love it, but it just went out. Well, it's not under warranty. We actually even have a program where we can upgrade that unit to a new unit, very, very low cost, and it's only for those scenarios because the older units, if they're out of warranty, we probably don't even carry some of those parts anymore. So again, we always want to make it easy. And if sometimes customers will buy their product from a reseller, we'll figure it out and we'll help them. But 2-year warranty, that covers everything. If it's out of warranty, a lot of times we can get it fixed for extremely low cost and get them a brand new machine with the latest technology.
Awesome. So it's good to know that customers generally are very protected from you guys. And I think that's going to help a lot of people just feel better about their purchase. So far, I've learned a ton in this episode, Mike, and I really appreciate you hopping on the call. I'd love to ask you just a few questions about the industry, where you kind of see the industry going in the next few years. And what have you seen? I mean, you've been involved for a long time now. So how have you seen it change, and where do you think it's going in the next few years?
Yeah, it's amazing to see the advancement in technology. I mean, obviously, so many things have changed on that level. And I think that's really an advantageous thing for the industry, from lighting to, racking and benches and equipment in general, and even just the knowledge base that's available now. I mean, some of the things that are being done and discussed, and it's so incredible. Back in 2013, working with those first producers in Canada, everybody was was, if you think about it, you were taking a home grower that was managing a small home grow, and now you're throwing them in a 150,000 square foot facility, and you're saying, go get it, duplicate it. And you know what? It just doesn't transfer quite like that. All of a sudden the problems multiply, the environment is so much bigger, and even the way the buildings were built back then, they were built a lot of times incorrectly. Incorrectly meaning, we didn't know what we know today. So airflow, HVAC, two huge issues in the industry. A lot of those guys that were developing those buildings initially were just bringing their knowledge of what they knew working in other industries, but it doesn't translate. When you put tens of thousands of plants in a facility at high humidity, it's going to be a lot different than building a school or a library. So technology, huge, and it seems like it's continually evolving. I'm just seeing new stuff come out. When we go to trade shows, we see all kinds of new advancements in lights and other types of environmental technologies, controls, sensors. So I think that's going to continually evolve like any other industry. And I think it's a very fast-moving industry in that regard. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward too in some of these other markets. I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation. We're already seeing it. We're seeing companies that drop out and others kind of stepping in. So I think the well-run companies are going to manage. And I think a lot of companies that maybe aren't as well run or don't have a quality product, they're going to struggle eventually. And so I think there's going to be a lot of sifting out companies over the coming years. But that's natural, I think, in any industry. But I think that's what I see is technology advancements and really a restructuring of a lot of companies dropping out and other ones maybe jumping in and getting better. The craft grower, I think they're going to do good. Quality is going to be huge. I think that's going to be something that's going to be imperative if you want to survive. I was at a show in Germany a couple months ago, and these guys were walking around the show promoting their brand and just said, talk to us and learn how you could buy the cheapest weed in the world. And I thought that was really interesting that somebody would broadcast they're the cheapest. Most people, you don't want to race to the bottom. You want to really try and differentiate yourself with quality. And I think that's really going to be something there. I think the quality is going to be something that's going to be imperative for the long-term profitability of some of these companies. So those are some of the things that I think, and we're watching. And when I say this, I say it because I'm talking to people all the time, and I'm hearing my customers pivot, and I'm hearing what they're doing. And those are the things that come up on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I can comment on that. The farmers that we work with, the ones that have obviously been around for a very long time and are continuously seeing a lot of success, even though there's been quite a bit of a contraction in the market, are the ones that have really focused on the high. I mean, these guys are so obsessed with the quality of their bud. So, those people that really invest in making sure that they have high quality bud, that are optimizing their yield, not trying to become the cheapest, but really, really, really just trying to have as high quality as possible. Those are the ones that are going to succeed. So there's obviously a lot of competitors out there that are similar products. Could you share a little bit about what, separates you guys from the competition?
Yeah, you asked earlier about air purification, and and I mentioned that I think it's really critical. Not everything is the same in the industry. Like we get a lot of people, they'll say, I've seen products like yours. I know exactly what yours does, and come to talk to them, they don't know anything about what we're doing. Traditionally, like I was talking about the evolution of technology, traditionally people talked about HEPA filters and UV lights. And our technology is very unique. And I think that's what's allowed us to be successful and to grow at the scale that we did with the industry. We use a very unique process. And really what separates us is the way we create our sanitization and how it handles high humidity. So we use this photocatalytic process. We use a very proprietary way we do that. And what that means is it converts humidity. It takes humidity or moisture in the air, which is hydrogen, and it makes it into a hydroperoxide vapor. So air comes into our machine, oxygen, hydrogen, it comes out basically a vaporized H2O2. And now it actively seeks and destroys the pathogens, which is very unique because we're sending the sanitization out, and it's going to kill those spores on the plant, on the benches, on the lights. It's going to kill it and stop it in its tracks at the point of contamination. And a lot of other products, they're still using old technology, or a lot of other companies are using products that are old technology. They're using what we call a passive system, a UV light or a filter. And what those are doing is they're basically requiring dirty air or the pathogen to fly across the room and get delivered to their device before it can get eliminated. But the reality is we're talking about big facilities, lots of plants, high humidity. Most of those pathogens are never going to get there. But the other thing is you don't want mold and mildew flying across the room. You're going to probably cross-contaminate who knows what on the way out. So our active system is was part of that evolution of the technology boom in the cannabis industry. But I think really what also differentiates us is how we handle humidity. Like as a grower, humidity is it's needed, but it's also your big nemesis. It's the number one reason why it's what produces mold or mildew. High humidity, the higher you go, you're probably going to create a friendlier environment for some type of contamination. So it's always that fine line of how far can you push without causing an outbreak. But what's unique about our product is we're able to become more effective as humidity increases because we're taking humidity and then making it into sanitization. So as humidity levels increase, normally you have a higher risk, but in turn with our technology, we're creating an increased amount of sanitization and we're reducing that risk, but allowing you to run it at those high. So if you're running VPD or you're using LEDs or you just lose control of your humidity, our technology is amplifying the output. And I had a really well-known grower. A lot of people would know him on Instagram. He's very popular in Michigan. He had a power outage where he lost his humidity and he lost his lights. For 6 hours. He was at 95% humidity. He said his room was literally a swamp. It was flooded. I mean, water was everywhere. The walls were sweating. The only thing that didn't go out on this breaker was the one with the fans in the ProGuard unit. He said after 6 hours, when he finally got his power, he was concerned that he had lost his whole crop. He was late in flower. Turns out, he said he had no mold, no mildew, and he ended up getting some of his best microbial scores ever in a couple weeks when he tested. And what he did is he came back and he says, I remember that story you told me about how it creates more sanitization as humidity levels increase. And at 95% humidity for 6 hours, the only thing that was fighting for him was the ProGuard unit and that fan. And he had no outbreak. And that's the difference. That's where air purification, an active system like ProGuard can help. A preventative measure, getting rid of that attitude of I don't have problems, because it's not if, it's when. You can't control a power outage or a breaker popping. So these kind of things are something that I think as the industry evolves, more people are becoming aware of it. They're becoming more proactive. And proactive is always a better solution than reactive. It's more cost effective, but it also gives you a lot more peace of mind. And, those are just some parting thoughts, is that if you're using some proactive technology, that's a great start. If you're not, that's something to be putting on your list on how you can up your game and increase your yields and develop a higher quality environment as well as product at the end of it. So just some thoughts on how to do that, and just thought I'd share that a little bit.
Cool. And one last question, Mike. Shout out to all the growers out there trying to learn, try to improve their growing abilities. Is there any advice you have for people out there just trying to improve their craft?
Yeah, in talking to so many different growers, one of the things that I've seen is the best growers we work with, the ones that seem to really be doing some amazing things, they're constantly learning. They have a mindset of, I haven't mastered anything yet. I'm still learning. And I hear that all the time from them. And I see them even post or share that they're very open, that they are constantly learning new things. And so I would say that, this is something that is changing almost on a day-to-day basis. We're learning new things, and that I would recommend that every grower have that mindset, to have a desire to keep learning and evolve in their understanding of technology and the science and the art that goes into growing. So many people I talk to, they're legacy growers, and they'll use they'll say, I've been growing for 10 or 20. I've heard guys say 30 years, and they're not saying it many times as I've seen, I've been around. They're kind of throwing it around like I've learned it all. And I think the moment you think that you know it all, you've obviously capped your ability to evolve and grow. So I would really encourage people to constantly be looking to learn, because there's a lot to learn. New technology, new processes, new systems. The other thing too is I would say, don't cut corners. I mean, I can't tell you how many times working with so many small and big growers that people try to cut corners. I was at a conference in Vegas last year, and one of our big customers, he came up to me, and it was a really cool reunion, so to speak. We talk periodically, and we were in a lot of their facilities, but he was explaining how he was cutting corners, and he wasn't maintaining his ProGuard units. He wasn't swapping out the air sanitization cells and the filters. And it was all to save a few dollars. But he said all of a sudden they started failing microbial tests. They hadn't failed in years. All of a sudden they're failing. And he called me up and he says, okay, well, let's place the order. I went 2 years longer than I was supposed to on my maintenance. He got all the parts replaced, And he said that stopped the failure rate. And we were like, again, having a good time at the show, laughing about it. But the reality was he was cutting corners. In an effort to save money, he was really costing money, costing hardship, using up his man hours to solve problems instead of produce results. And so cutting corners never works. It catches you at some point in the end. So those are just some things that, again, talking to so many people, seeing the best and sometimes not the best. You learn along the way on who's doing it the right way, and those are some common things I see with success.
So what I'm hearing is always continue learning, and especially with an industry that's always changing. There's always new stuff coming out. There's always new technology. Staying on top of that, always improving, always learning is going to be a huge factor. And then just don't cut corners, guys. Do the little bit of extra work. Spend that little extra couple dollars. Make sure everything's done 100% properly, and you should reap the rewards. So, Mike, super appreciative. Just quick shout out to everyone. We sell all of the Innovative Solutions products. We have a great relationship with Mike, obviously. So hit us up over at greenthumbdepot.com. You can give me a call. We'll put our number right here, and we'd love to help you guys out. So Mike, again, thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, and look forward to working with more of you in the future. Thanks a lot.